Most of the formulas you create in Excel will always perform the same calculation. For example, you might need to multiply a sales total by 5% to compute a transaction's sales tax. There will be times, however, when you only want to perform calculations if the inputs meet one or more criteria. In this movie, I will show you how to use conditional functions to perform specific calculations when those criteria are met. For my sample file, I will use the conditional workbook, and you can find that in the Chapter 2 folder of the exercise files collection. I'm on the commissions worksheet, and this is a table that contains sales goals for some representatives from my hotel, and then also their actual sales for a given period. And the scenario I envision is to give them a 5% base commission, but to give them a 7% commission if they exceeded or met their goal for this period. So I'm comparing their actual sales in column C to their target sales or goal in column B. I'll click in cell D2 to create my first formula and type an equal sign to start. And the keyword or function that I'll use is if. So if followed by left parentheses. Now I need to give it a test. And again, I want to see if actual sales were greater than or equal to their goal. So I'm comparing the value, in this case, of C2 and whether it's greater than or equal to the value in B2, which was the goal. So that's what we're looking for. So I'll have one action if this is true and one action if it's false. Then I'll type a comma. What do I want to do if C2 is greater than or equal to B2? Well, in that case, the commission will be 7% of actual sales. So it'll be C2 times 7%. Then a comma. Now what do I want Excel to do if the value is false? Well, that goes back to the base commission rate of 5%. So that would be actual sales, C2, times 5%. Then I'll type a right parentheses to close out, enter, and there's the commission. I've got 1/20th of 164,000, and we use 5% or 1/20th because the first rep did not meet the goal for the period. Now I can copy and paste this formula to cells D3 through D7. So I'll click cell D2, press Control C to copy, and then select cells D3 through D7, Control V, and there I have my results. And I'll press Escape to get out of cut and copy mode. So there we see the calculations, and it looks like Fry was the big winner on sales commissions. Also note that Tucker met the goal exactly, 175,000, so Tucker received a 7% commission rather than just 5%. There are other ways to summarize data conditionally, and to demonstrate those, I'll go over to the Cities worksheet. So I'll click the Cities Sheet tab. Let's say that I want to find the sum of particular values. In other words, values that meet a single criterion. That criterion might be to find the total of sales for the city of Portland. So in cell F2, which I've already selected, if you clicked away, please click back there. Type an equal sign, and I want to find the sum of values that meet a criterion. So I will type sum if, followed by a left parentheses. Now, what is the range that I want to test? In this case, I'm looking for a particular city. So those will be B2 through B9, which are my actual cities. I'm leaving the header in cell B1 out, then a comma. Then the criteria, I want it to be equal to Portland. So that's a string or a series of characters. So I'll type a double quote, and then Portland, making sure I spelled it correctly. I did. Then a double quote, a comma, and then what is the sum range? The sum range contains the values that I want to add, and those are revenue from cells C2 through C9. And I'll type a right parentheses to close out the argument list, press enter, and I get my total of $1,072,446. You can also find the average of a set of data based on a particular criterion. So I'll type in cell F3 equal, average if, followed by left parentheses, the range of values, and let's say that I want to do it for the year 2015. So I will select A2 through A9, then a comma, then a double quote, and equal 2016, followed by a double quote, then a comma, then the numerical values, those are in C2 through C9, right parentheses, enter, and there's the average. So for 2015, the average sales was 485,222 over these 4 cities. You can also count based on a particular criterion. So let's say that I want to count and find the number of revenue entries for a particular year in a city that were over $500,000. So in cell F4, I will use count if. So I'll type equal, count if, followed by a left parentheses. And in this case, I only need to use the range and the criteria. I'm not doing any summation, I'm just doing counting, so I only need the 2 arguments. So I have the range, and that is C2 through C9, then a comma, and then in double quotes, greater than, well, let's say greater than or equal to 500,000. So 500, followed by 3 zeros. Double quote to close, right parentheses, and enter, and I get 3. And that cell is formatted using an accounting or number or a currency format, so it shows $3, but the answer is 3. Now let's say that you want to find the sum based on multiple criteria. For that, you can use sum ifs. So in cell F5, I'll type an equal sign, then the sum ifs function name followed by a left parentheses. Now, rather than putting in the range that will be evaluated using a criteria, I put in the sum range first. And those are the revenue cells, C2 through C9, then a comma. Now the criteria range. So let's say that I want to find the sales for 2015 in Chicago. So I'll do 2015 first. So my first criteria range is A2 through A9, comma. Then in double quotes, I'll say equal. What did I say, 2015? I'll say 2015 now, double quote, comma. And then the second criteria range, let's say, again, is for Chicago. So that'll be B2 through B9, then a comma, and then in double quotes, I'll say Chicago, and everything looks good. So I'll type a right parentheses, enter, and there I see that the sales for Chicago in 2015 were 781,725, and if I look at the corresponding line in my table, I see that that is the correct value. You also have the average ifs and count ifs functions, which will allow you to find the average or count based on multiple criteria, but you've seen how these types of formulas work, so I don't feel that I need to go into detail on those.